10 NBA players who became good out of nowhere. Every once in a while, there's a player that comes out of nowhere and seems to catch us off guard and makes us wonder, when the heck did he become good all of a sudden? In this video, I'll be listing the players that randomly became a big time player that nobody saw coming. CJ McCollum. CJ went to Glen Oak High School and was a very small player. Coming in at the height of only 5'2", nobody paid him much attention. But due to a late growth spurt, he managed to squeeze into a small college at Lehigh University. And after 4 years at Lehigh, he became the first player to ever be drafted from that school to the NBA. He was the 10th overall pick by the Portland Trail Blazers in 2013, but he would only be a reserve for the first 2 years of his career. He wasn't really used that much, only really playing when it was garbage time. But then, when 4 of the Blazers' 5 starters left for other teams in 2015, Terry Stotts had no other choice but to give him a shot. And we were surprised at his ability to score the ball, going from only averaging 5 points per game to now an impressive 22 points per game, a huge increase from the first 2 years of his career, and was named the most improved player last year. Now, CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard are one of the best backcourts in the NBA. Jimmy Butler. Coming out of the University of Marquette as the 30th pick in the draft, Butler was only really known as a defensive player, and that was pretty much the only reason why the Chicago Bulls saw value in him, and they had zero expectations for him on the offensive end. Butler only averaged about 8 points per game combined for the first 3 seasons of his career, but in the 2014-15 season, Butler suddenly began to put up star-like numbers, averaging around 22 points per game combined for the next 3 seasons. He has emerged as one of the top elite players in the league today. Jimmy has been more aggressive at attacking the rim and converting around the basket, and also has been more efficient with his shot, shooting 47% from the field in the mid-range area. Jimmy Butler is now the primary go-to option for Chicago and is one of the top two-way players in the league today. Jeremy Lin. Jeremy Lin attended Harvard University from 2006 to 2010, where he was a 3-time All-Conference player in the Ivy League. Then he would enter the NBA draft in 2010, where he would unfortunately go undrafted. He eventually reached a deal with the Golden State Warriors, but got sent down to the D-League multiple times. But fortunately, the New York Knicks would ultimately give him a chance. And in February 2012, that's when the phenomenon of Linsanity would spread across the world. Lin succeeded against all odds with hard work and perseverance, single-handedly leading the struggling Knicks to a streak of victories.
5, 4, Lin for the win!
Jeremy Lin was suddenly the talk of the NBA and got more attention than he ever dreamed of. Jeremy later on signed a 3-year deal with the Houston Rockets, where he played 2 seasons. Then he bounced from team to team, now currently with the Brooklyn Nets. He might not be the same player that shocked us in 2012, but he will always be the same player who introduced the basketball world to Linsanity. Kyle Lowry. He is one of the best point guards in the NBA and is one of the reasons why the Toronto Raptors are one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. But did you know that it almost took him 10 years to make his first All-Star team? He was the 24th pick in the 2006 NBA draft and was only considered an average and mediocre player in the first 9 or so years in the league. He played for the Memphis Grizzlies from 06 to 09. Then he played for the Houston Rockets till 2012. He would land in Toronto after that, and it wasn't until 2015 where people finally began to talk about him. He would only average about 10 points per game in the first half of his career, but when he joined the Raptors, he showed major improvements and progress in all categories, nearly doubling his points and assists per game, with now about 21 points per game and 7 assists per game. Kyle went from average to elite in the matter of no time in the second half of his career. Hassan Whiteside. Whiteside was drafted by the Sacramento Kings in 2010, but with a partially torn tendon in his left knee, he was forced to sit on the bench. The Kings eventually sent him down to the D-League, and his career would spiral out of control, going on to play for a mixture of 8 D-League and overseas teams. With Whiteside struggling to find a permanent and long-term home, it wasn't looking good for him, but fortunately the Miami Heat signed him in 2014, and he took advantage of his opportunity to play in the NBA once again. He would emerge as one of the most impressive rising stars last year, also being the leader in blocks per game. Hassan Whiteside had his trouble finding his way into the NBA, but now he is the face of the Miami Heat. Isaiah Thomas. Teams definitely didn't have confidence in drafting Isaiah Thomas because he fell all the way down to the 60th pick in the second round of the 2011 NBA draft. Sacramento got a steal in drafting Isaiah Thomas, making the NBA all-rookie second team in his rookie year, but the Kings no longer had a place for him. So he was acquired by the Phoenix Suns, but would only stay there for about a year, due to Phoenix having too many players in the guard position. Thomas was then traded to the Boston Celtics, and that's when he would really show his true potential, averaging 23 to 25 points per game with the Celtics. He proved that he wasn't just another short player, and that he doesn't need to be tall to score the ball on a high level. He made his first All-Star appearance last year, and it looks like he finally found a place where he can shine in Boston. Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi was the 15th pick in the 2011 NBA draft by the Indiana Pacers, but was traded to the San Antonio Spurs on draft night. His first couple years in the league was average, and he was mostly there for defensive purposes. But when the finals came along, he turned into a monster, and was one of the reasons why the Spurs went to back-to-back finals against the Heat, and was the finals MVP in 2014. He also was a two-time Defensive Player of the Year, and is arguably the best two-way superstar in the league. Kawhi Leonard emerged quickly to an MVP-type player in today's game. Paul George. PG was the 10th pick in the 2010 NBA draft by the Indiana Pacers, and his first couple years looked like a 10th pick, being just mediocre. But when 2013 came along, he put the league on notice, showing why his talent cannot be ignored, which led him to being the most improved player that year, and helped lead the Pacers to the Eastern Conference Finals, where it went to 7 games.
Here comes George, got the step and scuffs one move and counts in the foul. He beat LeBron James with that quick step. A sensational move by Paul George.
Ever since his most improved year, he made the All-Star team every time, putting up big numbers for his team, and has blossomed into an all-around complete player. Manu Ginobili. He was a major component in the championship success that the San Antonio Spurs had for many years. But in the 1999 NBA draft, he was clearly underrated, only being selected as the 57th pick. He was one of the best players in the EuroLeague, but he had something to prove in the NBA. Nobody thought anything of Ginobili. He looked as if he was just another run-of-the-mill international player that the Spurs happened to select late in the draft. But before they knew it, he became a very valuable piece for the Spurs, and his energy off the bench led him to becoming a multiple-time All-Star and a 6th Man of the Year. Who knew that the 57th pick in the draft would become one of the best players in San Antonio Spurs history? Steve Nash. When the Phoenix Suns drafted Nash as the 15th pick in the draft, they automatically put him as a third-string backup behind Kevin Johnson and Jason Kidd, and he was struggling to find playing time on the team. He was traded to the Dallas Mavericks, where he definitely showed that he was a good point guard, but nothing that was superstar worthy. He later got an offer from the Phoenix Suns for $63 million for 6 years, but he was hesitant to take the offer because he liked being in Dallas with Dirk Nowitzki. But Mark Cuban didn't want to match the offer because he didn't believe that Nash was worth the money, so he ultimately rejoined the Suns. He had a huge chip on his shoulder and was motivated to prove that he was worth the money, and ended up winning back-to-back MVP awards. It almost seemed like he was possessed with MVP talent almost immediately, and made Mark Cuban regret not giving him the money that he deserved. So those were the players that no one predicted to have much success, but suddenly surprised critics and ended up taking giant steps to become great players. So now I ask you guys, do you remember a player that no one had expectations for, but then took a huge stride in becoming a star? Let me know if I forgot anybody. Make sure to comment down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.